What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Fight Like Hell podcast. This is episode 26. We're coming to you on a Wednesday, August 11th, 2021. In case you're listening to this in 2045, I have with me my heterosexual life mate, Austin. And Austin, we have a special guest today, Brandon from Warrior Hockey the Colorado Warriors hockey. How you doing today, Brandon?
Good, man. How you guys doing?
Good. Awesome. Brandon, you and I have met like a handful of times at hockey tournaments, and you have a pretty big role within the Colorado Warriors. So a while ago, I think at the last tournament that we were in May, you and I were bullshitting upstairs saying that like we need to get you on the podcast eventually. That way we could talk a little bit about mainly Warrior hockey and talk a little bit about you, of course, too. So we're happy as hell to have you on, man.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked. Yeah.
Thank you for bearing with us. Austin, why didn't we do the podcast on Monday?
Because you've been too busy with your girlfriend busy replacing me.
I mean, like, she doesn't mind, but you obviously mind, and then it's affecting our show. So,
and
people that listen might
affecting
mind.
your whole life.
But let's kick into it and let's talk about, even though it's a Wednesday, weekend adventures. Austin, go ahead and tell us what you did this last weekend.
I mean, the only thing I do nothing, but the only thing I did is worked on roofing the garage. So
a what?
Roofing
roof?
The garage.
Is it a roof or roof?
You just shut the fuck up. I'm not even gonna elaborate on that.
Not gonna entertain this. All right. How about you, Brandon?
I'm not gonna elaborate your childish games.
Oh man, we had a pretty eventful weekend. So Colorado Warriors, we had an event. We put on a 3v3 tournament. So we had 3 hours of ice and 10 teams, and it was a lot of hockey. We did 20-minute games for them 3 hours with an hour break in between. So there was dudes dragging their butt seriously when they were done, for sure. So
was it how were the rinks set up? Was it full ice or
no? So them guys would have died, man, if we'd have done full ice. So yeah, so we split it in threes, and we had just a scorekeeper on each three, and it was like a gentleman's game. You know what I mean? If it's a penalty, it's a penalty shot, and it went pretty smooth. It went pretty good. We had dudes from all over Colorado come down. So yeah, it was a great time.
Okay. And was that like focused on trying to like fundraise and gain some proceeds for the organization? Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those like we used to, when I was on the Alaska team, that was one of our biggest tournaments that we could actually like create some sort of fundraising for. We do camo versus contractors, and it was basically any type of Alaska type contractor. Like they could be oil operations, they could be electrical, whatever they do that's kind of like a blue collar job, versus either Wounded Warrior guys or active duty guys. And it was just a 3-on-3 like round robin tournament. They would break it up. And for those of you who don't understand what we're saying, and correct me if yours was different on this, basically you take it from like kind of like the blue line area, right? And are you going, you're going like boards to boards, right?
Yeah. Cross ice. Yeah.
Cross ice. So it's like super tight. And then the nets are out a little bit. So it's crazy. Like it's an interesting style of hockey, and there's kind of a lot of goals. Like,
there's a lot of goals. It's fast paced. There's a lot of goals. And it's just a lot of action nonstop, back and forth for that full 20 minutes.
And you guys were rocking 3+ a goalie?
No, so we actually had the teams were set as 4+ a goalie, and so you had one sub. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly how we did ours too. That way you could have like one time to get off the ice and like catch your breath. Because we're all a little bit older, so like after a while you get pretty freaking winded skating.
Yeah, you experienced that on Monday, Rob. How'd that go on Monday with the little kids?
So I have a tournament coming up, a charity event for the Utah Warriors. That's the team that I skate for now. And I needed some ice time because I haven't skated since our Tennessee tournament. I just been doing stuff all summer, and I'm kind of far away from Utah. And Phil's an asshole and wouldn't let me come down and hang out with you guys. And yeah, so I went on the ice for the first time in a while, and skating was fine, shooting was fine, worked on one-timers, worked on passing drills. And then these like kids came up to us. It's like 6 of them or there, and they're like, "Hey, you guys want to play like 4-on-4 half ice, literally like from the red line, take it back in instead of the blue line." And it was a bunch of like 13-year-old and 14-year-olds. So like skills wise, not that big of a deal. Like a lot of them I could poke check or whatever, or I could get around them occasionally. But endurance wise, they just beat the crap out of us. Like we were gassed. Because yeah, those little kids just have like full tanks. But
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we got the same mess out here, man.
Yeah, and then you're in such a saturated state for people in general, and then Colorado historically has had good hockey. So I mean, it's got to be crazy when you guys. I don't know if your guys' Warriors ever practice with, I don't know, any of the youth or like 23-year-olds or under. That's like insane fast-paced hockey.
Yeah, we keep all our practices pretty much closed to just Colorado Warriors guys, but all of us play in a beer league too. It's not associated with Colorado Warriors, but we're all pretty much on the same roster in the beer league as well. And there's some teams out there, like right now we have a team out that's called the Zonkinators, and it's a bunch of 18-year-old kids, AAA kids that are getting ready to go off their juniors in college. And man, they just run all over us. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like heart attack on ice.
Yeah, that's what I tell them, and they're like, "Well, you guys don't back check." I'm like, "Hey, no back check, no paycheck, no back check." So
yeah, yeah, especially like beer league hockey is such a different style. Did you grow up playing hockey like when you were in high school, middle school, and stuff? Yeah, because like the skating difference and that is insanely different. Like people don't really back check, and
no. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like our beer league, there's nobody back. If you get the puck and you break out the zone, you're gone, man. 2-on-1, 3-on-1. There's a couple guys here. Yeah, there's a couple guys here and there that jump in and we'll back check, and we turn around. We're like, man, why are you trying so hard?
Yeah. Did you, besides the tournament, how many days was that tournament?
We just did 1 day. We just did 3-hour ice slot. Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, you did say that.
Yeah. It ended up being about 5 hours, I guess, total. But so we did an hour-and-a-half break in between, and you know, we ordered as an organization. We ordered pizzas, and of course we had beer there. So one of the pluses we have is we have a beer distributor that's actually on our team, a guy that works for a beer distributor. So the beer comes cheap for us. So yeah, yeah, right. So it was about an hour-and-a-half break in between. We did a nice raffle, raised some money, and went back to playing some hockey, and it was a good time.
Okay. Very, very cool. And did you get into anything else over the weekend or, you know, in this past couple of days that's worthy of talking about on the podcast?
Oh, man. So yesterday I played roller hockey for the first time, inline hockey for the first time that I haven't had inline skates on for probably 20 years. And the boys wanted to start a team, so we started one up, and I was like, oh, yeah, I should be good to go. Man, let me tell you.
It's different, dude. It's different. Dude,
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was filthy out there, but, you know, but, yeah, no joke. I think the hardest part was getting out of the locker room to the actual surface on the carpet. So, but yeah, it was a good time. We had a blast, and I'll be doing it next week again. So yeah, that's been my eventful week so far.
Yeah, it was probably a year ago. I was going down to Texas a lot for a certain reason. And the people that I used to hang out with on the Lone Stars, all of them played both ice and roller. So they invited me out to play on the roller team. And they're like, Rob's like a solid like B-level player. So we're just going to put him in the A-level roller team. And I'm like, hey, guys, like I haven't played roller probably in like 15, 20 years. And I was a goalie. Like I wasn't like a forward. I don't know how well I'm going to do. And they're like, nah, dude, you're going to be fine, man. You'll be fine. We'll hit you in motion, all this stuff. Dude, I felt like I was like a D-level player. You know how like when you invite someone out for the first time to play hockey, for like warrior hockey, and they're trying to learn the sport? Yeah, that was me. I'm just like trying not to fall. It was awful.
Yeah.
Have you was Phil playing by chance?
No, Phil wasn't down there playing. So
okay, because him and I this summer picked up Mars blades, and they're pretty legit, man. Like minus stopping, they articulate within the chassis, very similar to the way that you push off on ice. Very similar to the way you do like not really a crossover because you're kind of like sliding that underfoot. It's the closest thing that you can get to like an ice hockey like skate in comparison. I don't know if you want to look into them or not, or you're just gonna rough it and figure out the ways of that roller because it's
I don't know, man. I most of the game I spent just working on not falling down. So and I was borrowing some skates, so I think I'm gonna grab myself a pair though. But by the end of the game, I felt comfortable on them. But there are definitely some differences. Like I'm a long strider when I take off, so that's a big no in inline. So I was doing that long stride and going nowhere.
It doesn't work, and then like the stopping is so different because like on ice you can just like turn really quick and stop. You try to do that on roller, you just turn, you're just like, ugh, and you just fall over.
I used the boards as much as I could. Trust me. So.
One of the like, God, the kid was probably like 20 years old because he wasn't even able to drink with us after a locker room, and he's like, man, you were really fast out there. But he's like, you couldn't stop at all, man. You kept running into the boards. I was like, dude, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, man. I haven't played like roller hockey, I think, ever really, because I was a goalie. So yeah, I feel your pain. I can empathize with the situation. So anything else fun happen this weekend, or did that pretty much cover it?
No, that pretty much was it.
Okay. Well, I guess Austin, should I get into my weekend?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I already heard about it, so
my let's do podcast appropriate. Especially because
you act like this podcast is appropriate.
But the problem is my mom's been listening, and she's listened to the episode that Steph was on, and she's like, I got 15 minutes in.
That you did naked cribbage this weekend, and then elaborate on that.
You know what cribbage is?
I don't know, but it caught my attention with the naked, so it's got to be something interesting.
It's a slang term, don't worry.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a board game. Austin, while I'm explaining the story, will you look up a picture of like cribbage that we can display?
Oh yeah, cribbage board.
Yeah, cribbage board or cribbage game or something like that. Anyways, my girlfriend likes to gamble, like not aggressively, like literally plays like for quarters and shit for like cribbage or whatever. She also likes playing Texas Hold'em and blackjack, and one of her things is cribbage, and cribbage is all about like making pairs of 15s or getting doubles. And basically when Austin brings it up, we'll show you have a little cork board, and you're just moving your little pins along, and you're trying to beat the other person. So the girlfriend and I, you're about ready to pull it up?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to wait on you. We'll just have this awkward silence for a second.
That's fine. I mean, it's right there, so.
Okay, yeah. So you have a deck of cards, and then you have your little pegs. And the idea is to get those pegs to just move around the board as you get sets of 15. You deal 6, and you're just going through trying to match up things that work with 15 or in pairs of 2s. It's like the simplest way to describe it. Now, being someone that has 3 traumatic brain injuries and is not good at math because he was stupid infantry. Not all infantry is stupid, but in general, smart. Yeah, I mean, you were a mortar, so like you're a little bit smarter than us. Were you 11 Bang Bang?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I don't know about you, dude, but I'm terrible at math. So
I have an iPhone, man. If I can't do it on the iPhone,
exactly.
It don't happen.
So I'm sitting there like always trying to count shit and trying to figure out what I have. And I'll think that like I only got like 4 points. And she'd be like, you have 8 points. I'm like, how do you figure? She's like, this is 15, 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 that's 15, this is a double, that's a double, move 8. I'm like, what the fuck? How did you see all that? She's like, you realize that like if we play in a tournament or something like that, no one's gonna tell you that shit. And they're just gonna take your fucking money, Rob. So anyways, the way it got naked, I guess, is my girlfriend knows kind of like a hands-on learner, and I'm trying to think how I can keep this like just in case my parents are listening. So
just say the truth, Rob. Just say the truth.
So there I was in my socks, and that's it. And there she was in the naked, that's it. And she's like, "You want to learn cribbage?" I'm like, "Are you serious right now? We're butt ass naked." She's like, "Why not?" She's like, "I have your attention, don't I?" I'm like, "Yes, you do." She's like, "All right." She's like, let's do this. So she's like trying to teach me, but I swear to God, dude, Mom, please stop listening if you're listening. The entire time I'm staring at her tits, I'm staring at her ass, like, and she's like, "You got this point, you got that point," and I'm just like, how am I supposed to focus? Like, I can't learn shit right now. Like, I'm just constantly staring at it. She's like, up here, look here, look here, count this, count that.
Where am I looking?
Yeah, just no focus at all.
No focus at all. I've decided I've succumbed to the fact that I'm gonna have to YouTube like tricks to it, like to play better, because she's like, I'm not a really good teacher, and I'm like, you're kind of the best teacher I've ever had, but in the worst way, but in the best way. And she's like, was that an insult? I'm like, no, it's just very distracting right now.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, in a nutshell, that was my weekend. She's in the process of moving. So part of the reason why I couldn't do the podcast, and I apologize to everyone on Monday, was I was busy moving furniture. And Austin, what was I doing last night? You saw a video of?
You're breaking couches with a sledgehammer.
Mm-hmm. They had a couch at the new place that they moved into that the other people didn't want to move out. So we found out quickly why. 1, because there was mold on it. 2, because there was semen on it. 3, because of the fact that you could not get it back up the fucking stairs. Like, I feel like they built that couch in the basement. So I asked her, I'm like, hey, you guys don't want this, right? She's like, no. I'm like, all right, well, I didn't work out today. So I got a full-on like CrossFit workout on this thing. I was doing fucking tire flips with it. I was taking a sledgehammer to it and just beating the shit out of it.
Nice.
So, yeah. That was my weekend, basically. Breaking shit and
naked cribbage and breaking couches, huh?
Oh, and then the 13-year-olds showing me up in hockey. Yeah, that was embarrassing.
So we'll name this episode Naked Cribbage and 13-year-olds?
You know, that might get people's attention.
I don't know if you get people's attention the right way, though.
I don't know if that
will be canceled for sure.
Yeah, that might get you a sign in the front yard, too.
Yeah, I mean, we've already had one episode taken off of YouTube because the UFC came after us for like posting their content. And then we've also made some borderline ballsy decisions on names of podcasts. I think we should keep 13-year-olds out of it. But naked cribbage should definitely be on there, because I mean, we talked about it for 4 or 5 minutes, and it'll get my girlfriend's attention. So if you're listening, Steph, I love you, and last night was fun. All right, let's.
You know that, right?
Yeah, she probably will, or she just won't listen, or she's gonna videotape this part and send it to us tomorrow and say, "I was listening, motherfuckers." All right, let's get into serious shit. So obviously, the jerseys behind you represent the Colorado Warriors. Tell us a little bit about like what the Colorado Warriors are and the backstory of the team coming to being a team.
Yeah. So basically, we're just like any other Warrior team out there. We're just a bunch of disabled vets that that love hockey but at the same time want to support our community, you know what I mean, as much as we can, and support the veteran community. So it's a funny story how we started up. So my buddy Kyle Cook, him and I went to a tournament in Dallas to an all armed forces tournament. It's actually coming up in September too, this year. I can't remember the name of it, but
it's oh my god, dude. Keep talking. I'll get the straight from it.
Okay. Yeah. So they actually, it was a funny tournament, and we got there and we walked in and got in the locker room, and we're both Army, and they ended up putting us on we both registered for it. That's it right there. Yeah.
It is the United Heroes League.
Yep. And it's an awesome tournament.
Did you play upper or lower? Obviously.
No.
Upper,
so
right?
no. Wait, so here's the best. Yeah. So the best part about it was we had registered for upper Army, and when we got there, they're like, "Hey, we don't have any upper Army, so we're gonna throw you guys on the lower Marine." We're like, "All right, cool," because their jerseys were badass. We're like, "Cool, we'll play on the lower Marine," but we didn't realize how lower was there.
Lower was desolate, dude.
Yeah,
it was like D level players.
We got done the first game, and him and I combined for like 16 or 17 points in the first game. So they told us. Yeah, they told us, they were like, "Hey, you guys need to chill out a little bit. Don't do anything. You know what I mean? We don't want you guys doing. Just don't." We're like, "All right, cool." I'm like, "Well, just move us up, you know?" And he's like, "There's no spots. Nobody will move you." At that time, we didn't know anybody in the Warrior community like we do now. So the guys were like, you know, like, "Fuck you. We don't want you up here." You know what I mean? We don't know you. So we ended up playing the second game. And the second game, we really just kind of didn't do a whole lot. And then the third game was the game where if we win, we go to the championship game. And so we were 2-0, and we needed to win that third game. So him and I didn't really do much of anything. And the last 2 minutes of the game, I think we were losing by 1. And him and I went out there the last 2 minutes of the game. And I think we scored 6 or 7 goals in that last 2 minutes. And guys just lost their shit, man. I mean, lost their shit. I had like a 70-year-old man trying to fight me. I'm like, "Look, man, you know what I mean? I get it. I understand. But, so we ended up at the end of that game, the coordinator, Russ Lusk, awesome dude. He talked to our team captain and told us basically, "Hey, them two can't be on the ice together. When they're on the ice, they have to play defense, and they're not allowed to go past the red line." So that's how we played the entire championship game, but we still ended up winning it. And then all him and I did was just tell guys, "Hey, just break out the zone, fly the zone. We'll hit you with passes." And that's what we did the entire game. But to go back to Colorado Warriors, we walked in that locker room and we looked around and we were like, "Man, like everybody in here has some Warrior team's hockey bags, or they have some Warrior team representation on it. They're wearing a shirt or a hat or something." I'm like, "Man, what's going on?" And at the time, we were part of another Warrior organization, and it just kind of it was flat, wasn't going anywhere, and we wanted a whole lot more. And that organization was kind of content with just like beer league and doing a tournament here or there, and we just weren't content with that. We wanted to be a lot more and be involved a lot more in so many more aspects than just hockey. So him and I looked at each other, like literally we went back to the hotel. We were sharing a room together. We just talked. We were like, "Dude, we can do this. Let's build a team. You know, what do we call it?" Well, shit, let's call it Colorado Warriors. 2 weeks later, we filed for our paperwork. I mean, we filed for the name, filed for a trademark, came up with a logo, hit up a uniform guy, and all within about 45 days, we had an organization rolling. So. And that's pretty much how we did it. You know, we pulled a few select people in and bounced ideas off them, and we kind of collectively built it, with him and I being the main sources behind it. We pulled in our who is now our director of operations, Ray Brooks, and we kind of just talked to him, and we're like, you know, the good thing about Ray was he was there at the beginning of the start of the other organization, so he knew like how to get things moving, how to get things started. So it really helped. He helped us out tremendously. But yeah, that was in September, I want to say, and at the end of October we had our tryouts. And the reason we selected to do tryouts was one thing we didn't want to do. And I had talked to a few guys there from the Lone Star and Dallas Warriors. And we kind of, there was a little squabble there between the two organizations. And with talking to some of them guys, they were saying, hey, one of the biggest things you want to avoid is the good old boy club, basically, So in order for us to avoid the good old boy club and hand select people who we wanted, we decided we're going to do a tryout, and we're going to have somebody select who makes this team, an outside source that none of us know. So basically I did all the coordination. Myself and Kyle did all the coordination, and we had a guy from our local rink reach out to a guy to come and actually do our tryouts. And the first day that I ever met the guy was at our first tryout, and I literally walked up, shook his hand, and said, hey, my name's Brandon. How are you? Never said, hey, my name is Brandon. I started this. Hey, my name is Brandon. I'm deeply involved with this. Nothing. It was just, and the way we picked, he knew none of the guys on the team. He didn't know me. He didn't know Phil. He didn't know Kyle. So we thought that was the fairest way for us to do it. So in doing all that, what we did is we made little placards like marathon runners, wore them on our back with number digits. And at the registration desk, when the dude came in, he registered, got a number, and that's how they were selected. At the end of the tryouts, he sent me an email, and he said, at the end of the tryouts, I told him who I was. He sent me an email, and dude, I'm not kidding you. The first thing I did, I looked down the list to make sure my name was on there. So, and then I messaged some of the other boys, and I was like, hey, the list came out, and they were like, dude, please tell me I'm on there. So that's how we developed our roster for Colorado Warriors and started Colorado Warriors off. But yeah, and we kind of just went from there, and our first tournament that we intended to go to was Nashville. That was going to be the first one. At the time, it was supposed to be Vegas, and then they switched it to Nashville.
Yeah, they moved it to Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah, so our intention was to go to that tournament. So we're like, hey, we have plenty of time coming out. Honestly, when we first started off, we literally, it was like we were shooting from the hip in everything we did. So it was like, hey, we're going to do 2 practices a month. We're going to do this. Well, what we found out is getting ice time was extremely hard to try to get 2 practices a month.
Yeah.
At the time. Yeah. So, and then if where we practice now, they're very fair with us on the amount of the cost they give us for ice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if we wanted to go outside to other places, I mean, we're talking upwards of $400 an hour for ice. And it's just, I mean, we were paying for this out of our pockets. My wife literally told me, she said, you pay another penny out of your pocket. And she's like, I'm going to kill you. So,
yeah.
So yeah, myself and Kyle and Ray, we were emptying our pockets to try to just get this thing moving and get it going. And then I got an email from Chris Miller from Lone Star. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was Cal Carter. He's like, hey, bro, I know you guys just started this up. Would you guys be interested in coming to a tournament? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Classic.
Yeah, I'm like, sure. When is it? He's like 2 months. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know, man, if we'll be ready in 2 months. We don't even have uniforms yet. So, yeah. But yeah, so we got as many practices as we could. We played, I think, 3 or 4 local games in the local area with just like some beer league teams, and we played the police department twice. The first time I think they beat us 11-1, and then about 4 days before we went to Dallas, we played them and beat them 7-3, I think it was. So it was just a matter of us coming together and playing together and getting going. But yes, I mean, we still literally our 501c paperwork just came through about 2 weeks ago. So, and it was filed back in October. So I kept hitting up the IRS. They kept telling me, they're like, you got to wait, man. You got to wait. You got to wait. You got to wait. I'm like, I can't do anything until I get this. I need this like now. So
yeah, no, that's pretty incredible. I was at that tournament too. Trevor from the Alaska Warriors, Trevor Everson, and I got Russ reached out to us and basically said, hey, he knew us from a Tampa tournament when I used to skate with Alaska. He's like, you boys should come down and play for the Upper Army team. So we got on the Upper Army team, which we probably could have used you, and there was at least 3 people I would have kicked off that team because they're fucking whiny cry fucking babies. Yeah. And they weren't Lone Stars either. They were just like douchebags. Anyways, yeah, with that whole tournament was an interesting experience. Yeah, I don't want to go like too crazy in details, but that's where I met like my ex-girlfriend.
Nice.
so I had a lot of affiliation with the whole Lone Star team, the Dallas Warriors, Russ going down there a lot. They wanted me at one point to try out for the team, and yeah, obviously I was going to. That did not work. Anyways, but like one of the things, there was something that I wanted to say that when you were explaining a couple of things. So I love the fact of what you guys did off of getting some of the ideology from the Lone Stars, because they had a similar scenario too. And Alaska, I'm not on the team anymore, so maybe I shouldn't run my mouth too much on this, but
you're good at that though.
I'm just going to say it this way. A lot of Warrior hockey teams run into one issue, and that's the whole entire like good old boy league or the good old boys, where everyone's there just to have fun, drink, hang out, play like beer league hockey, and not really compete. Like, oh, it's all fun. Like, I don't know about you. Well, obviously I do know because of what you said and who you play for. I'm insanely competitive, and I don't like being on a team that we're out there to have fun. No, like I'm out there to fucking win. I'm out there to win face-offs. I'm out there to fucking hit one-timers. I'm out there to try to get breakaways. I'm out there to try to set up passes. I'm out there to assist in any means possible for 55 seconds to 2 minutes on the ice where I'm exhausted and I'm getting off and letting someone else go on, that I want them to do the fucking same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the way I look at hockey. And then a lot of these Warrior organizations, especially like the C level and D level teams, get stuck in this whole entire like, we're just out here to have fun, and this is going to be a good time. And I love teams like yours and like the Lone Stars. Like, I'm still very good friends with pretty much the entire team. I don't think anyone really hates me that bad on that team.
Of at least.
There might be a couple people. Anyways, I just love the fact that like both those teams, your team and that team, have tryouts. Both those teams took an idea of something and expanded upon it into a comp team. And that's what we're seeing a decent amount of these Warrior teams do. And we've talked about on the podcast, that was months ago when we were talking a lot of Warrior hockey. But that was when you came back from your tournaments. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's crazy, man, because, when we first announced that we were doing tryouts, it was like it was the Blair Witch Project, man. We were out there getting, or not Blair Witch Project, but like we were getting stoned for saying we were doing projects, and people are like, so you're going to turn vets away and this and everybody was just taking it way out of balance. You know what I mean? And nobody was even giving us the opportunity. And finally on one of the forums on Facebook for a Warrior forum, I just broke it down and I'm like, look, here's why we're doing this. Because we want to give everybody a fair chance. You know what I mean? We want to make sure that everybody has the option to, if they want to play at a higher level and they want to play a more serious game, then this is where they can come to. If they don't, there's other organizations here that they can do that with, But yeah, it was bad. And then a lot of it came from Minnesota and from that program. And it's funny because then myself and about 4 other guys went out to Johnstown, Pennsylvania to do last Veterans Day, I guess. Last Veterans Day? I'm not sure. But to do a tournament out there, and we kind of combined, we took like 4 or 5 of our guys and a bunch of Minnesota guys that we had never met, and we had one Carolina guy that basically coordinated the whole thing and mixed our teams together. But it's probably the best tournament I ever played in off the ice. It was a blast. But after explaining it to them guys, like why we did this and everything, it was completely different. And I honestly think, I'm not going to name his name, but the guy who set that tournament up for us and arranged the teams, he did it on purpose. He did it for a reason. And it was to get us together and let us explain and, you know what I mean, just get the word out there why we did what we did. And it wasn't about us being, pricks and wanting to just create or develop a team that's going to kill everybody else, because we're not that team. We're a competitive team, but we're not out there smoking people. As we can, when we get into Nashville, we'll realize that. But
yeah, that's later in the story. We haven't reached that show note yet. We still got a couple of things to cover before we get to there and before we get to Dallas. But but
that's why we did that. So
I commend you guys. Like I think it's really cool, and Utah has talked about it too. But the problem is for Utah is it's like literally I'm in Wyoming and I skate for them, and I used to skate for them as an Alaska Warrior. So like our team, when we went to Dallas and when we went to Tennessee, was comprised of I think like 40% or more out of state guys, whereas like they have a great organization, great people. Every single player that I've skated with, met, shook hands with, all of them, nothing but love, respect. But I don't think they have a big enough pool of players like someplace like, Fort Worth or Dallas area or Colorado Springs area, because that's where you guys are primarily out of.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's cool when you have the population density to expand in that direction. And it's not like you said, and anyone that's listening to this and is getting upset at all about this, by no means are we saying that you can't come skate for a Warrior program, because there's Warrior programs, dude. I think there's like more than 36, 42 teams. It's something stupid. And
there's always one popping up.
Hell yeah. And I'm positive you guys are on the Warrior forums, because I've met a couple of your guys through the Warrior forum, because I thought about originally doing like the 6-hour drive to skate with you guys, but try out with you guys. Yeah. But Utah was a little bit closer for me. So for those of you that are struggling and want to play hockey but aren't super competitive, if you reach out to this podcast or reach out to me or reach out to Brandon, we can point you in the direction of a team that will take you, because there is plenty of teams that take all skill levels, from A-level players all the way down to D-level players. So it's not the fact that necessarily the Colorado Warriors don't want you to skate for them. They're just trying to pick the best team to go to tournaments and win. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up, but you're exactly right. That's what we wanted, to build a competitive team. And some of us had some hardships with, we had 36 guys come to tryouts. We decided to build a 17-man, there could have been some women too, but no women came out. And we got some incredible female hockey players here in Colorado Springs. But none came out. And a lot of it was, I think people were really unsure about what we were trying to do. They heard tryouts and they heard this and they heard, you had to sign a commitment and so on and so forth. So I think it turned a lot of people away at that time, but we still did have 36 people come to tryouts. We had a two-day tryout and we had 36 people come. We selected a 17-man active roster. And then we added 5 alternates, including 1 goalie. So, and the reason we did that was there was guys that had been selected in the tryouts. We said, hey, we're going to select 23 people or 25 people, whatever it was. And we reached out to, in order, we had the person at the rink who coordinated the selector, if you will, the coach on the ice that selected the team. Because at the time we didn't have a coach. We had no coach yet either. So we were really shooting at the hip, man. I'm not kidding when I say that. Like everything we did, we're like, boom, let's do that. Yeah, cool. Sounds good. We're a little bit more organized now though. So, so we said, select in the order that, your 17 that you would have on the roster to take to a tournament tomorrow. And then your other guys put as alternates. And what we ended up coming down to was like the last 4 or 5 guys, and even like Phil, I had talked to Phil about this. They literally had the same grade. So it was a matter of, hey, what do we do? And some guys like Phil, for example, we just didn't know. We didn't know Phil. We didn't know some of the other guys. We had never met them before. We never, other than at tryouts. So the way we did things was the roster was already picked, so we knew all them guys were going to be on the team regardless. It was just a matter of what 17 are going to be there and what 5 are going to be as the alternates. And we kind of had a plan with that, in where the alternates weren't required to commit like the active guys were, but it all ended up being every one of them alternate dudes, half of them commit or show more commitment and more drive to be part of this team than some of the guys on the active roster. And we've done moves. We've moved guys around on the roster too. But yeah, so we had 36 guys come out. Now, granted, some of them our goal was to create a high to mid B level team. That was our goal. So some of the guys we had come out were low C, D players. And I'll be honest, some of the guys probably just came out because they wanted the ice time. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, it happens. And hey, it was free. We didn't charge for them. So shit, why not come out? I probably would have too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so going into this year, we're going to do things a little bit different. Where we're actually, to caveat off of what you're saying about reaching out and, we can find you if you're a low level player. Our goal this year is we're going to have tryouts again in November. And we're going to try to create the same level team that we have now, along with probably a high to mid C level team. That's then awesome. we're also looking to make a developmental team. Okay. So, and the goal for that is basically the developmental team, bring veterans in that have never tried the game before, have never tried this, or just aren't, and some of them guys, they're not interested in even playing, going to tournaments, stuff like that. So that would probably be a real low D to a novice level is what we're looking at for the developmental. And the goal with that is to not take them to tryouts and stuff. Not take them to tournaments and stuff, but just coordinate some local games, some charity games around the area and stuff like that. But the other 2 teams will be our 2 travel tryouts, our 2 travel tournament teams.
That would be awesome. And then it gets rid of the whole stigma of you guys are turning away veterans, because now you're giving veterans a spot everywhere.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is in our first year, we just didn't want to, we had seen it with other organizations. I reached out to a ton of organizations, and what I had started to see was they opened the doors wide open and they grew so fast they didn't know what to do with people.
Yeah.
And that was one thing we didn't want to do. And we wanted to control every aspect of what we do. So it was like a tactical movement, if you will, is we were like, okay, we're going to go here. We're going to, once we're complete with this and we're comfortable, then we're going to move to this. And that's literally how we've run this organization from day one. And we've had a couple setbacks here and there, but it's expected. But yeah, so that's the plan for the upcoming year.
That's awesome. I feel sad for Austin. I feel like
it's okay. I'm just listening.
Since he doesn't play hockey, he's not.
I don't do hockey. I know nothing about hockey. Well,
you just hear it from me all the time.
I mean,
because I'm always telling him about my fucking games or whatever.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's trade spots for a second. You do some of the interviewing and maybe hit him with the next question.
So one thing I wanted to ask is like, what made you decide to start this? Like, what was your overall like aha moment? Like, I need to start this.
So, like I had said before, we were part of another organization that was kind of just like, they were content with what they were doing, and there wasn't a whole lot going on in the community, and it was not really, there was like 70 people on the roster, but sometimes you'd show up to game, we'd play local games up in Denver that's an hour from us, and you couldn't get more than 6 or 7 guys to show up, and it was always the same 6 or 7 guys. So myself and Kyle, we just decided we wanted more. We knew we could do better. We're seeing all these other organizations like Lone Star and Dallas and Alaska, and them guys like just flourish, you know what I mean? And North Carolina. And we wanted to do that. But more than just hockey, we wanted to get into the community. We wanted to figure out a way how we can help the veteran community in any way we can, or just the community as a whole, not necessarily the veteran community. And that was really the motivation that drove us to get this going. And then when we just put our heads together, I mean, we're both hockey guys, We both grew up playing. Kyle played juniors, so we knew what we were doing when it came to this. We just had to figure out the business aspect of it, because no matter how you look at it, this is a business.
100%.
You know.
Yeah. Go on, Austin. You got this. I just
Okay,
feel like you're not talking at all.
That's fine. And then the next thing we wanted to cover is just your backstory, because you obviously are a veteran because I'm playing Wounded Warrior hockey. So if you want to dive into that.
Yeah. So I was in the Army for 15 years. I did 3 deployments, all to Iraq, all pretty much back to back too. In 2006, I got wounded. Did a pretty fast recovery. Ended up turning around and redeploying again in 2000, the end of 2008 into 2009. My first 2 deployments, I was at Fort Drum, New York. So that was awesome. That was a blast at Pitt Mountain.
That's
so it's cold, man.
Right now.
Dude, it's cold, but I tell you what, the worst duty station as far as location, but hands down the best unit I was ever in. I mean, they treated us incredible. I mean, you were confident on the deployments you went on, but yeah, I did 2 back-to-back deployments with them. My second one with them was when I got wounded, and then we came back, and actually during that second deployment, right before it had happened, I called my wife and I said, "Hey, I got to re-enlist, man. What am I doing here? Am I staying in?" She's like, "Well, shoot. I mean, do you really have a choice?" I'm like, "Well, I always got choices, you know. I mean, at that time I didn't have a degree, I didn't have anything, so I was like, Army was all I knew from the time I was, you know, just coming out of a little bit older and just coming out of high school. But I had already had a kid. I had my first son was born when I was the day after I turned 18, so with my wife. So yeah, so we already had a little one, and it's like, hey, what do we do? So I decided to re-enlist, and I called her and I said, hey, we're going to Europe. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, we're going to Europe. So, and in reality, you know, Europe was not really on my mind. It was the bonus. I got like $22,000 to re-enlist. Right. So I was like, dude, the bonus is where it's at. I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Wait, where am I going? So, but
that's how they get you. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, if you sign up, we'll give you this amount of money. And then after you sign up, they're like, oh, well, we're sending you here.
Yeah. Like, and she's like, yeah, exactly. She was like, well, where are we going to Europe? I'm like, well, I'm not airborne, so we're not going to Italy. So we're going to Germany somewhere. so we went to Germany. I went to Baumholder, and I got slapped with another awesome duty station, man. But
Baumholder sucks.
Dude, the Rock, man. It was my wife used to, for the first 6 months we were there, she stood on our balcony and she cried. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So
that's sad. I should have laughed. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Your wife's
but then, you know, the last 6 months she cried because she didn't want to leave Germany. So, but yeah, I did a deployment while I was there in Germany to Iraq again, and I did all 3 of mine to Iraq, and then I came back from that deployment, was looking to re-enlist again, and I got called into my sergeant major's office, and he's like, and we had a really tight knit unit there, so it was really, I don't want to say too casual, but for the people that haven't been stationed in Germany, the Army's different there. You know, it's a lot different there, a lot more casual.
It's a lot different. It's a lot different. Unless you're in Vicenza, that's where the airborne unit is in Italy, right?
Yeah.
Because I was out of Launchstoel, and it was like super fucking chill, fucking chill, like first name basis stuff. In comparison to like a regular line unit at Fort Drum, at Fort Benning, or Fort Collins or Fort Lewis, or like even Hawaii, like have stricter shit. Like
Fort Drum, you knew like it was parade, rest, and attention no matter what you were doing. When you got to Germany, it was kind of, you just knew where the line was, and you knew what not to cross, and you know. But he called me in, and he's like, hey, you got orders. I'm like, I didn't even re-enlist yet, Sergeant Major. He's like, no, I know. He's like, that's the best part. He said, I can't wait to see your face when I slide these over to you. He slid them over his desk, and he said, he's like, you're going to be a drill sergeant. I was like, no. I said, Sergeant Major, that's not for me. And my first sergeant just stood back there, and he goes, Jesus Christ, there's no way this guy is going to be a drill sergeant. Because I just had a very I'm not going to lie, at that time I was motivated. You know what I mean? I'm not, the only thing I hated about deployments was I hated being away from my family. That was it. So, and at that time we had our son, and we had a daughter that time too. So that was the biggest issue. But truth be told, being a drill sergeant was probably the best thing I did in my career. I hated it while I was doing it, but after I was done, I missed it.
Yeah.
But I think overall it was probably it was harder being a drill sergeant than it was deploying family wise, because I was 5 miles down the road and I still couldn't, I'd have to be there at 4 a.m, and I wasn't leaving there sometimes till 11:30 at night. And some nights I call her and be like, hey, I'm staying in my office tonight because I got to be back in 2.5 hours. So yeah, so I went, did 2 years, and then they called all us 11. I ended up being at Fort Jackson. I was supposed to go to Benning, and 2 weeks before I graduated, they pulled us in and said, hey, all the 11 Bravos, they just went down the line, and they were like, Sill. They were like, Leonardwood. And they just went like that. And they got to me, they're like, Jackson. And I was already at Jackson for school. And I'm like, no, I was supposed to go to Benning. And they're like, no, you're staying at Jackson. I'm like, well, fuck my life, And the first thing that came to my mind was, there's females at Jackson.
You're training Pogues.
Yeah. And I had never worked with females in the Army, other than going up to the S shop and being like, hey, where's my paperwork? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I know from dealing with some of them how they were. Not all females, so please don't put it in that category. But it's just some that I was like, yeah, I know, right?
Already fucking this
shit
up.
I'll cover it up though right now. So I ended up staying at Jackson. I went there, and I'm not gonna lie, man. I was there 2 years. I got involuntary extended for a 3rd year there. Probably the best soldiers that we produced out of there were females.
No shit.
I mean, I can remember one story that we had a female, we were doing our 12-mile foot march, and she had insane blisters. And she kept saying, I told her, I was like, you're not doing the foot march. And she's like, drill sergeant, please, I want to do this. She goes, I don't want to be given any hand-me-downs or, giveaways. Like, I want to do this. And I'm like, all right, here's the deal. I was like, if you fall back, you're done. You're out. So this female, she was a hard charger. She's probably about like 4'9", maybe weighed like 75 pounds. I look back to formation. I go back there, and she's walking back there without her boots on, just straight across, just chugging. Her feet were bleeding. And I went back there, and I told her, she had made it probably like 6 miles. Well, apparently she took her boots off right at the beginning. And it was nighttime when we started. So by the time I had trekked back, and I finally noticed she didn't have boots on. And one of the other privates had told me, they're like, she took her boots off like first 2 miles. I'm like, at that time, I'm thinking like, man, I'm a shitty drill sergeant. I got private back here walking with no shoes on. Her feet are bleeding. But at the same time, dude, I gained so much respect for her in that moment. And I told her, I called the van. I said, you're getting in the van. I said, you did your 12 miles. I said, hands down. I said, there's out of the other 120 people we have right here, I said, probably 99 of them would have gotten the van already or just sat on the side of the road. So some of them female soldiers that came out of there, they blew my mind, like as far as how productive they were and how great of soldiers they became. But yeah, so then I left Fort Jackson. On the involuntary extension, part of the deal was not that I had a choice to stay an extra year, but they were like, hey, you can go to any duty station you want. And we had been, my oldest son was playing elite level soccer. So the goal was to get him out here to the National Development Program in Colorado Springs for soccer. And so I said, hey, I want to go to Fort Carson. So sure enough, I came to Fort Carson. I got here, and right away they were like, hey, we're deploying. I was like, cool, I'm ready to go. Where are we going? We're going to Afghanistan. I'm like, sweet, I haven't been there. Let's do it. I'm ready to get back on the line. Yeah. We go through SRP and going through the physical part of SRP, and the lady, she's like, hey, do any of your injuries bother you? And I'm like, no, I get my stuff drained, once every couple months. And so she's like, I'm gonna go send you to the ortho. So I went and seen the ortho, and he's like, no, I can't send you on deployment. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, actually, I'm not even going to recommend you stay in the Army. I'm like, hold the fuck up. I've been in the Army 15 fucking years.
I got 5 years left, dude.
I'm on the fucking, I'm at the point now where I barely got to put pants on to go to work. I'm on the downslide. So sure as shit, I asked for a second opinion, went and saw it to the Air Force Academy and saw the head orthopedic surgeon. And he's like, no. Long story short, after being there, from the time I signed into Fort Carson, to the time I was out of the Army was 9 months. So, and we had just bought a new house. We had just bought new cars when we moved here, and it was a fucking smack in the face, dude. And my wife, I remember, like, she's like, you got to fight. And I did. And there was just, I tried to do the co-ed, the stay on active duty thing, and just go to a different MOS. And the infantry wouldn't release me because they were so short manned. But yeah, it was ridiculous, and I couldn't do anything, and I fought it, and then I ended up getting a solid disability rating. I got a 90% disability rating. So the JAG, they told her, they're like, hey, I've seen guys come through here with way worse stuff than you, and they don't get your rating. They're like, so probably just, high five, wave to the Army, and dip out of here. You know what I mean? And fight your other battles down the road. I think you got a good thing. So, after discussing it with my family and figuring out some avenues, and at the time, my wife, she was a photographer, so she wasn't making a great amount of money. You know what I mean? She was doing her part, but she just wasn't making a killing or anything like that. So we definitely were going to struggle, and we did, man. We ended up, we had to sell our house because we were going to lose our house. And we tried to move back to South Carolina because we still owned a home there in South Carolina that we were renting out. And fortunately their lease was coming up. So we moved back there, and then it sucked because we were moving our kids in high school, and we had our daughter, she was a junior, and our son had just graduated. So it was a mess, but yeah, so we ended up we moved to South Carolina. The Army paid for me to move all my stuff back to South Carolina. And then we turned around and moved right back here less than a year later to Colorado. So, so while we were in South Carolina, I was still applying for jobs. There was still jobs on the books that I had applied for while I was still here trying to get a job. And then I'm getting a federal job at range control in Fort Carson. And that was like the saving grace for us, man. Yeah. So I ended up, we came back here and we decided to build another house. We rented a house for a year, built another house. And then my wife, she decided when she came back here to get into real estate. And if you know anything about the Colorado real estate market, dude, it's through the roof right now. So now she's the money maker, man. She's the breadwinner. She's here's your list for today. Do this.
She's the one that pays for all your Warrior hockey, is what you're saying.
She's the one that pays for all my Warrior hockey.
She's paying for the ice time.
Yeah. So that's kind of my whole story right there. But yeah, it's been, it sucked, man. And it's still, and honestly, probably until about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was still so bitter with the Army, so bitter about how they handled it and like just pushing me out. Cause that's what I felt like. I felt like it was just like, hey, we're done with you. See you later. You know what I mean? Here's a nice severance check. Here's a 90% disability rating. There you go. See you later. Have a good day. And I'm like, fuck you, man. Like I've done so much, I feel, for you, you know what I mean? Like my body and everything. I was bitter. I was really bitter and went through some pretty dark times, some tough times too. You know what I mean? So, and fortunately I had my wife she was there for me and was able to just be like, hey, get your shit together. You know what I mean? And you're tougher than this. You're stronger than this. And you can't let something like that bring you down. But so, and then I was into Jeeps, man. And I started a veteran Jeep club. And that honestly was my saving grace at that time. And it was just the camaraderie of people liking Jeeps. And I had stopped playing hockey at that time too. I hadn't played hockey for, I don't know. I mean, probably 6 years. I hadn't played hockey and I had no interest in going back to playing hockey. And I gained a ton of weight getting out of the Army too. It was like that DD 214 plus 30 pounds. Here you go. So, so I was like, man, I'm not getting back on the ice. I'm going to kill myself. So yeah, did the Jeep Club thing and then got involved with Warrior hockey. And man, Warrior hockey has just been like, I say the Jeep thing was my saving grace, but I think probably Warrior hockey, like I'm motivated every day to do something for Warrior hockey. Whether it be, you know what I mean, get on the ice with the guys, or it be, talking to like anybody who's doing a tournament, saying, hey, how can I help you out from here? How can I do this? Or reaching out to the community and being like, hey, what can we do for you? We're not asking for anything in return, but we want to help the community because, that's what we're looking to do. So Warrior hockey has been my saving grace, I'll say, for sure.
Yeah, it's and we've talked about on the podcast before. Warrior hockey is so much bigger than hockey. It's that camaraderie that most veterans are missing. It's honestly like one of the better suicide prevention techniques for like getting people
100%.
like veterans and stuff back together, or people that are getting ready to transition out of the military and kind of want to keep going. And then you have the competitive aspect, because most of us that like all three of us were infantry, ironically. And let's just be honest, we're literally the fucking best. I'm being sarcastic, but I'm also being truthful. no, but like, it's just a lot of us, infantry guys get out and we kind of carry a little bit of an ego with us, but we also at the same time value the family aspect of serving with brothers and sisters. It's funny. I'm going to go on a little tangent here because it was something you were saying earlier. I was my first time in. I was in for 3.5 years, and I was only with guys as well. And I worked my way up into doing like pre-ranger and smoking pre-ranger to the point where they're like, "Hey, like we're going to send you to ranger school, or you can try out for recon and snipers at the battalion level for just our line battalion." And it's pretty cool because like out of 800 guys, they only picked 24 guys to be on the recon and sniper teams. So I did that, and pretty much picked up this poor life bias that men can do anything, and that do like women really help that much, like because
especially back then though.
Yeah, and those who are women that are listening to this, just bear with me for a sec, because it was insanely immature. And keep in mind, I was 19 to 23 years old when all this stuff was processing in my brain. I had done a very violent deployment with nothing but guys. I had watched a couple of my friends, get hurt, watched a couple of my friends get killed. And, I had this mentality that like guys can do anything. And I had never worked with girls as well. So when I got recalled, a lot of people on this podcast already know that story, but the summary for you, Brandon, was I was out for 4.5 years, and I got a fucking IRR recall letter with 3 months left on that 8-year obligation that we signed.
Oh, wow.
I had to come back in for 15 months and go to Afghanistan. And then to top it off, they put a bunch of infantry recall guys with a bunch of Air Force and Army civil engineers, civil affairs, and medics, and a couple like other like S shops to do a deployment where we were just security force for them in Afghanistan when it was bloody as hell at that point. And it was all like PRT missions. For those of you who don't know what that means, is provincial reconstruction team or provisional reconstruction team. It's basically like hearts and minds. You go out and you talk to the community, and you try to improve the community by the community's needs and like force the Taliban out. And two things I learned about like getting recalled was I got to work with a lot of women, and immediately learned the value. And it's not if you're male or female, it's about like here, it's about heart, and it's about here, mental toughness. And that's part of the reason why we have this podcast, because we want to bring on people that have struggled and persevered, and it doesn't matter if you're male or female. And that was one of the things I definitely learned. One of my best friends on the deployment was female, and she has a Purple Heart. She got presidential accommodations from President Obama. Was responsible for saving 3 guys, including herself, after hitting a 500-pound roadside bomb in an MRAP. Just a super badass human. And the point is, like, when she met me, she actually came up to me and knew that I had a decent amount of combat experience. So she had a shit ton of questions for me. She was like an E3 or E4, and I was the E5 at the time. And she's like, "Sergeant, what am I supposed to do when people start shooting at me and this and that?" And I kind of just looked at her and I'm like, honestly, like, you're not going to know what you're going to do. Like, your training's either going to work or you're going to fold. Like, I'm sorry to say it that way. Like, there's plenty of guys that I knew that I thought were hell of soldiers, like that were going to go out there and fucking murk people all day long, and they fucking fell apart in the very first firefight.
Or absolutely.
I mean, to elaborate on what Rob's saying, I mean, you can train as much as you want. I mean, you can train for hours and hours and years on years, but it doesn't matter until you get into that real situation that you don't know how your body is going to react.
100%.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast, but before we pushed past Kuwait to go into Iraq on our first raid, that night, I wasn't religious at the time, but I remember crying and praying and talking to my chaplain because I was like, tomorrow I think I'm going to die. And he's like, why do you say that? And I was like, because like, I'm scared. He's like, it's okay to be scared. That's normal. He's like, but you have to rely on, you know, your brothers and your sisters, and you have to rely on God, and you have to rely on training. And I remember praying, I was like, just please let me do my job. Like, just guide my hands, That's all I ask. Like, guide my hands, guide my mind. That way I'm doing the right things. And I'm sure you've experienced this in firefights, but like, those first couple are such an outer body experience that like it's giving me goosebumps talking about. Cause like, it's just like you don't have control of what you're doing, but your body's either going through the motions and it's doing it correctly, or I've watched guys completely shut the fuck down and just curl into a ball crying and shit. And I personally thought I was going to be that guy. Like, I'm not trying to act like a tough guy by any means. Like, I joke around a lot on this podcast and I act like I'm fucking tough. But I was a fucking little mama's boy that got sent off to war at fucking 20 years old, man. I was scared to fucking death, but I performed. So long story short, going back to the chick, I told her that story and I was like, hey, like, you're going to perform or you're going to fold. Like, I'm sorry, but here's the deal. I already know that I'm going to perform. And I got your six. Like, I will be there. If I'm on mission with you, you're going to be fine. Like, I will get you out of shit. And, you know, yeah. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on that, guys? Cause like, go ahead, lay it on me. I've been rambling.
Yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. I've seen it both ends. I mean, like, I've seen dudes that you're like, oh man, this dude's going to, I definitely want to be next to him. And next thing you know, this dude's hiding in the truck. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So, and then I've seen brand new privates straight out of basic come to deployment with us who you're like, man, I do not want to be near this guy when this goes down. And he's out there ripping the saw like crazy. You know what I mean? So I've seen both aspects of it, and I agree with you 100%. And Austin's exactly right. You don't know until it happens. Until that moment, and every single time it happens, it's a different feeling. You know what I mean? Depending on the situation. So yeah, I agree. It's definitely one of those things that it's, you know, and after the first one, you do know, you're like, you kind of know what to expect, but it's that whole, the initial beginning of it, and then you finally are able to assess the situation, and you're like, me personally, and this goes for everyday life, not just like in combat, but when crazy things are going on, when something nuts is going on, my mind literally slows down. Everything in my mind slows down, and I can think so much clearer, and I can visualize things so much better. Just like it's probably about a month ago, my daughter and I were, my son and I were driving, my little one and I were driving back from the grocery store, and we have a 4-way intersection by our house, and this guy ran a red light and hit this lady, broadside of this lady. And at the time when I saw it, happened, you know, 25 yards in front of us, and pulled my truck to the side of the road, got out, went over to make sure she's okay. And the first thing I noticed was she had a little girl who wasn't in a car seat in the back seat, and she ended up on the floorboard of the front seat. So first thing I went over to the little girl, but everything was just so slow to me. You know what I mean? Like I was able to process everything, like check her, make sure she's good, check the mom, make sure she's good. The mom's good, go to the little girl. But then there's another guy that was behind her when it happened, and he was freaking out, going nuts, like trying to like smash the back window to get in. I'm like, what are you doing? The door's wide open. You know what I mean? And so it gave me that realization to see like how how this was handled from this guy who maybe I don't know his backstory. Maybe he went through a hell of a lot more than I ever went through, and maybe he didn't. But I know my personal is I was able to just slow down, assess the situation, and take control of it, and that's how I always was, like, deployed, and I handle that everyday life with situations. You know what I mean? Now, some things I overreact for sure. You know what I mean? My wife's always like, you like just bam, you like just jump out, and I do, and there's no doubt about it. Like, but when it comes to something that's seriously like trouble, like even my kids getting hurt, it's just I'm able to just get in there and just do what I got to do and slow it down, and I don't know really what to contribute that to. I mean, is it training? Is it just the way that, you know, us? So a lot of us 11 Bravos are infantry guys, or because infantry is the best. Maybe that's just how we're bred.
Yeah, so I think it's just how our brain works. I mean, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same way when shit gets crazy. It takes a minute, but then you just gotta take a deep breath and slow things down to figure shit out, because going crazy over everything isn't gonna solve anything. You just gotta take a deep breath and kind of breathe and like, okay, we gotta do this, and then we'll get through this. You know, not just trying to do a million things at once doesn't work, even though you want to.
Yeah, that's my wife. When something happens, she freaks out. Like, she's like frantic, and I'm like, just calm down. Like, it's okay. Like, I know his head is gushing blood right now, but I'm gonna take my hand.
Okay, he's not gonna die.
Yeah,
okay.
I know he's 9 and his blonde hair is red now, but we got this. And just relax. And then she'll say to me after, she's like, "How the hell are you so calm?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but when things aren't crazy, I'm more high strung when things aren't crazy."
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. It's interesting. All of it's interesting, and it's just, I don't know. Like, one of the things that we do, like, and I'll even be honest, it even got brought up about you. Austin and I want to have people on this podcast that we think fought like hell in life to get to where they are today, or they're currently fighting like hell to get where they want to go. And, you know, I knew you just from Warrior Hockey. I knew that you're a veteran. I knew you were partially disabled. By the way, when we end the podcast, you and I need to talk, because I have a lawyer I can help you. I have some information for you about, like, disability stuff, because yeah, so we got to talk about that. And anyone else who's struggling with a rating that, like, legitimately served their country and didn't fucking hurt their back picking up stacks of paper, if you do that and you're 100% brave, go fuck yourself. Like, that like pisses me off beyond belief.
I hurt myself eating an MRE.
When guys like Brandon or guys like myself got pretty much fucking pushed out of the Army, I didn't even get medically discharged, and then, you know, got a rating 90% as well, but mine's about ready to go up.
Yeah. And I got mine bumped to 100, but it wasn't easy, but it happened.
So. Okay, good. Then never mind. Yeah. We don't have to talk about it. I'm getting mine bumped here too, but it's just bullshit, because there's men and women that have experienced what you would consider as significant trauma and or disabilities that like, you know, can stand in front of you and show you their body parts, and you think that they're fine, but you have no idea what that person's fucking been through. And some of them are rated at 40%. Some of them don't have ratings. And then you got some fucking paper pusher who barely did it. All right, I'm going to tell you guys a little story. So I met an infantry dude when I was stationed in Alaska, and his wife was retired. And one night, me, my ex-wife, and his wife and him went out to dinner. We're all bullshitting. And she had just got her rating. She had got medically discharged from the military. She was like one of the S shops. And S shops in general are like support. I don't remember what she was, but for the sake of argument, let's just say that she was what's S3? let's just say she was logistics support or something like that. It
Yeah.
was something fucking like it wasn't even intel. So she wasn't even on strategic mission planning, which I know a lot of the guys and girls get PTSD from that because they design the missions that you go on and people die on those missions, and then you fucking feel terrible because you provided that intel to that infantry unit.
That's just like a drone pilot gets PTSD
exactly
from pulling the trigger.
So this girl did not do that. Anyways, she gets drunk and she starts telling, my ex-wife and I about how she's 100% rated and how she gamed the system. And basically what she did was when she went in to do like her VA evaluation was she wore shoes that were one size too small. So they crinkled her feet. I think she went and like did a bunch of like deadlifts the day before. So she like had her back all hunched over and like herniated herself a little bit. Anytime the doctor would touch her, she would scream and like be in agony. And she like flat out told us that she was so sick of serving in the army that she wanted to get everything she could back from them. This fucking asshole never even deployed. Her husband had been on 3 deployments, was a badass dude, super humble, super cool. Him and I had snowboarded a couple times before. This is the first time I ever met his wife. And like just going on a tangent. And finally, like at one point he stopped her and he's like, you realize that like Rob's a combat veteran that like, isn't 100% rated. He's like, maybe this isn't the best time to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, right.
But that's all I'm trying to say is like there's men and women out there that need to be reevaluated and or evaluated. So if you guys have any questions on that, reach out to me. I have a really good point of contact that's already helped 4 Alaska Warriors and is currently helping me get their rating up to where it should be. So, all right, that's all I got on that. Let's get into some other stuff. All right, we're going to kick it back to hockey, actually, because there's 2 things that I want to talk to you about before we got way off in the deep end on shit. So the first time you and I think, actually met because we were at the same tournament in September last year, but we didn't know each other, was probably through Phil at the Dallas tournament, that the Lone Star Classic, where you were in the upper league and I was in the lower division with Utah. Why don't you tell us about the 2 probably coolest fucking games of the entire weekend?
Dude, I'll tell you what. So technically that was our first tournament we went to, this Colorado Wars. Yeah. It was our 3rd or 4th game that we had played. And these games that we had played really weren't that competitive. They weren't that, you know what I mean? They were just, it was like beer league games, if you will, kind of. So we got there and we played that first game. And of course, the very first team we play is St. Louis. So I'm a chirper, man. I like to give it to people and I don't mind taking it back, but sometimes I thought I had maybe stepped over the edge because we had a coordinator's meeting, a captain's meeting on Zoom a couple of days prior, and I was talking like good Warrior chat talk to some of the St. Louis guys and some of the Lone Star guys, and then I'm watching St. Louis and I'm like, dude, these guys are practicing 3 days a week. These guys are whooping up on these teams in the St. Louis area. I told the boys, I'm like, hey, I may have dug us in a deep hole, so we need to get our shit together, you know what I mean, and make sure we go out there. So we played St. Louis. It definitely was, you could see that we were nervous. It was our first game. We ended up winning that game 3-1. So that definitely boosted our confidence. And then here comes the second game, Lone Star. And that night, there was probably like 4 or 5 of the boys that went to the club. And the night prior to the Lone Star game, because we played them early in the morning, and then they had a late game, I think like 8:30 that first night, that Friday night. So a bunch of us stayed back to watch that game, and it was against Minnesota, and the game was crazy there, and it was a physical game. It was a dirty game, you know what I mean, from both parts. There was sticks being broke over legs, and it was crazy. So we were like, oh shit, man, like Lone Star's got it together. And the only thing I knew about Lone Star was seeing some of them guys play while we were at that tournament that last September out there. And that's all I really knew about them. So when we got out there, man, that first game, that was intense. We would score, they would score. We would score, they would score. They would score, we would score. It went back and forth. And I think we were probably tied. I don't exactly remember. At the end of every period, we were tied in that game.
Yeah. I watched that entire game. Like all the Utah Warriors watched that entire game. That was the craziest game as of that point in the entire weekend. Like it was wild. Continue though, dude.
Yeah, that first game, man, and it was fast and it was physical but it was a good physical. There was nothing dirty going on in that game. It was just a solid hockey game. It was a great game. And we get into the shootout, and I think I went second for our team. Our first guy scored, then they scored, then I scored, then I think they scored. And then we had our third guy go, and I think he missed, and then their guy went, and there was a save. So then we were back to it. We ended up going, and we ended up winning that game, and that was a huge momentum and confidence booster for us. So we get done that game, man, and it was just like the build up for that game. I don't think I've played hockey all my life at a competitive level. I played AAA was the furthest I had played, but just the fact that one or two of the guys that played juniors on our team, they said they're like, man, it's probably the most intense game I ever played was that game. And that was the first one. So the game was just intense. It was an awesome game. And then the next day then later that night we played Minnesota. I think we played Lake Superior. I don't remember what the score was. We beat them. I think it wasn't a real tough game for us at that point. I think they just wanted to see another Lone Star and Colorado showdown. So they were kind of just like, hey, let's just make this happen. So then Sunday we go out there for the championship game. And I'm telling you, man, like I don't know why I don't ever get like this, but I was definitely nervous for that championship game. And I could tell that in the room, all the boys were nervous because it was quiet. And it wasn't our normal thing that we were doing, like just like the music and the this and the that. And it was pretty chill. Everybody was just kind of like, all right, we know that game could have went one of two ways, that first one. And we know damn well that they're going to come out and they're going to be blazing. So yeah, that second game, man, it was like Groundhog Day. It was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then we get into the third period. I think there was about that game was a little bit different. It was a little bit more physical. There was a little bit more chippy stuff going on from both teams. And I remember there was 2 minutes left, a little over 2 minutes, maybe like 2 minutes and 10 seconds left. And I got just blatantly I was coming up and I got blatantly tripped at the blue line. And I just turned around and took out the guy's skates. And I get the call and they didn't get the call. So I was pretty hot. I go to the box and I'm like, I can't believe it's tie game. There's 2 minutes left. This is stupid. I can't believe I did this.
Death wish, dude. We're like, no, why did they do that?
It was like
I didn't realize that was you that went to the box on that play because we're like, dude, there's only like a little bit less than 2 minutes. They're gonna be on penalty kill.
Yep, like 2 minutes and 10 seconds left, I think it was. And then, dude, I go in the box. We kill the penalty. I come out of the box and I go right to the play. It's just inside the zone to my left. And their dude on their team, Sullivan, man, he's backing up to the boards, and I hit him. Didn't even mean to really hit him. I just meant to play the body. But I'm gonna throw this out there. I think he lunged into the boards a little bit. But him and I have talked since then. But yeah, I mean, I apologize to him for the hit because it was a shitty hit. I did hit him from behind. I go right back in the box, dude. There's like 6 seconds left in the game. I'm like, fucking idiot. What are you doing, right? I look across the bench, man, and our coach, he just was kind of like, dumbass, you know what I mean? Like, what did you do? So we go through the entire overtime, and it's down to, there's like 5 seconds left in the overtime, and our vice president, Kyle, he gets an open net on a half partial breakaway, and he misses the open net. And he's gonna kill me for saying this on here because I tease him all the time about it. He's like, thanks a lot, dude. He's like, I gotta live with that every day. But yeah, so so we go to shootout again. You know what I mean? We did the overtime, then we go to a shootout, and which I wish we would have continued in overtime instead of going to a shootout. But I know they had time constraints, and I know why we did it. But yeah, dude, it went back and forth again in the shootout, and just man, when it was
everyone scored except for one player on your guys' side, and then but continue. Like that was insane.
Yeah, dude, I was sitting on the bench when that went on because I straight up knew I wasn't doing the shootout because I just took 2 stupid ass penalties. So I didn't even like turn around to look to see if I was getting called for the shootout. I just knew I wasn't. But yeah, when they scored that final goal to win, man, it was just like the head just dropped, and it was. I looked to my right down the bench, and everybody was like that. And then I just stood up, and I'm like, hey, pick your fucking heads up, man. We have so much to be proud of what we just did this weekend, because not one of us in that room, I think we probably all believed that we could go out there and be extremely competitive, but we didn't think that we would play like we played, especially with it being, I mean, all said and done at the end of the tournament, that was our 6th or 7th game together playing as a team. So, yeah, so, you know, it was, they deserved that win. I've told, you know, they are a world-class organization, Lone Star is. I mean, Chris and Bryce and Cal and all them boys out there, they, you know, they pulled us aside. They're like, hey, we're going to donate the winnings to you guys because you guys are brand new and you guys need this and you deserve it. And I'm like, man, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if we would have even thought to do that in that moment. You know what I mean? So I got to give them tons of credit for that. That was awesome. But yeah, and that motivated us to be like, dude, we can play in this top Warrior division, and teams are going to know now Lone Star and Warrior, or Lone Star and Colorado, they're going to be the 2 teams to get ready for. Yeah, and it was an awesome tournament. I think them guys did a great job putting it together as fast as they did, and with the little amount of time that they did. And we had an amazing time, and we can't wait to go back next year. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, I up at that point had been hanging out with the Lone Stars and the Dallas Warriors probably for like 9 months at that point. So I knew how fucking good they were. And I pulled, well, I would talk to Phil on the phone or like bullshit with him when he'd come up here, we'd go hiking. I'm like, I don't think you guys understand how good the Lone Stars are. Like they're like, I didn't want to say the tournament was rigged, but like I was confident that they were going to win the tournament and it was going to be flat out. Like I would make fun of Phil. I was like, you guys are going to get fucking steamrolled. Like they are so good. And then you guys go out there and win that first game. And it was cool because it was a huge ass stadium. And you know, they had a shit ton of fans there, especially for the championship games. Yeah. And mind you, well, you were taking the ice. I was just getting off the ice because I was crying because we had lost our championship game as well because Utah made it all the way to the championship. Fucking got rocked by Tampa Bay. They beat the shit out of us. We had a couple guys get like stupid penalties at the end of the game. It was just fucked. Anyway, so I had just gotten off the ice and watched you guys get on, but that was the quickest like championship loss shower I'd ever taken because I wanted to fucking shower off quick, get dressed, wipe my tears out of my eyes, and like get back out there to watch your guys' round 2. So I got out there probably like towards the end of the first period and watched the entire game. I was like, this is insane. How are they doing this again? Like games don't like line up that way like 2 times in a row that go into fucking overtime and fucking shootouts and like hands down.
That's what I mean.
It
was like cool. I mean, on the bench it was like Groundhog Day, man. It was like, oh dude, we scored, we got the lead, boom, we're out. They scored. And it was just, and it was back and forth, man. And it was just like, oh, they got the lead, okay, boom, we score. And it wasn't like it was going full periods with these between these goals. It was like they score and then, you know, within 3-4 minutes we're scoring and vice versa. So it was crazy. It was to be honest with you, it was exhausting. So
it looked exhausting.
Yeah. Like, so, but yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hit you with a question that I asked permission to like talk about before we got into this.
Yeah.
But so you and I went to another tournament probably a couple months later, late May.
Yeah.
It was the tournament you were talking about earlier in Tennessee. And everyone had high expectations that you guys were probably going to win the tournament. At least in my mind, I thought you guys were going to win because Dallas didn't go to that. Well, the Dallas Warriors went, and they were in the lower, or they were like in C, or I can't remember.
I think so.
You guys were in B, and I watched 2 of your games. What the fuck happened, dude? Because it was completely different. It was a completely different tournament.
Well, to start it off, I think Dallas got us overconfident, to be honest with you, to begin with. Now going to Nashville, we had 2 days before we went, probably our top 2 guys. One got hurt in practice, broke his hand, and then we had another guy that had pulled a hammy. And they were our top 2 defensemen. So that we knew we were going to struggle right there, but it wasn't. I mean, they don't make the entire team. We knew that. We thought we could still handle what we were doing. So we go down there, and I honestly think, and we talked about this as a team, as a whole, we went there overconfident. We went there thinking we were going to blaze through that tournament, and we were just going to smash everybody because Lone Star wasn't going to be there. Yeah,
Lone Star's wasn't there. I was like, Phil, you guys are going to win the tournament, dude. Like, the Florida Panthers have a team. I'm like, please, dude.
and I'll tell you what, and the fact that we went there and that first game when we played Florida, that game just absolutely fucked with our heads. I mean, the shit that went on in that game.
But they were
the shit that went on in that
game, dude.
It was both sides. I mean, it was both sides, but I mean, I don't necessarily want to dog them out, but like I can't see anybody on Colorado Warriors after you score a goal skating by the bench and flipping the team off. That just kind of set us off, man. And literally it was up and down the bench. Everybody, guys that were the most calmest dudes on our team and laid back, they were losing their minds. They wanted like to go out there and kill somebody. And as you've seen, it ended in a bench brawl. So it ended up in a bench brawl, and it just, I think that screwed with us the rest of the tournament. And then I think we played, I'm not sure who we played in the second game. I want to say Tampa maybe. And honestly, I think all but except for the last game that we played, we probably should have won. I think we definitely should have beat Florida, and we should have beat Tampa too. But it just, I don't know. I don't know what happened. It was a shit show. And let's just say there was, I don't know if Phil shared it with you, but there was a long email that went out when we came back from Nashville about how just like everything from the way we played to the way we conducted ourselves to everything. And hey, this is not us. It's not who we are. We're not going to be like that. And that's the last time that happens. So yeah, it was a shit show, man, to say the least. It was embarrassing, honestly.
Yeah, it was. And also that tournament was set up weird. Was that the one that like you got bumped up or bumped down?
So we stayed right where we were, but they were bumping teams that were up, down. And, one thing I am going to comment on, because I'm still pretty, and I've said, this is one thing. Now, we didn't lose these games because of this. However, if you go to a tournament, as we went to that tournament as Colorado Warriors and represented ourselves as a Warrior team, every single person we had was Warrior eligible to play in that game, in those games. Other teams, at least 2 of the 3 we were playing, I'm going to go with Florida too, because we got beef and they know it. So they had 2 or 3 dudes that all played juniors that went to this game, were on this team. They're not Warriors. They were civilians. Now, granted, they were allowed to do it as per the tournament rules.
Yeah.
But maybe this is just my opinion. You don't go there and you don't represent yourself as a Warrior organization or as a Warrior team, and you take civilian dudes. To me, it's not right. You just don't do it. It's not what we're about.
So the only thing I would push back on that politely is that one was considered as not United Hero. It's
the Armed Services.
Armed Services.
Yeah.
It's Armed Services or Armed Forces, because we had the problem too filling our team, and we had to put a couple like active duty on that were working on getting out, and then we had 2 civilians on the team. No, 1 civilian on the team. The other girl was a veteran. But like, I think so for them to label it a warrior one, that's when the team's got to be 100%, 10% or more disabled to play. And then these other ones are designed to allow, like, I think they allow like 3 players that have no affiliation to military. But to support your argument, I would go and say that, like, you should at least have, if it's like services, you should have some service affiliation, like maybe a police officer, maybe military, maybe, and I hope my Utah team doesn't dog on me for this, because we had a wife on the team, and in a way she's a spouse of someone that was military, so like mad respect. But I kind of see your point too, because it definitely allows that gray area where you're like, hey, let's just fucking bring a college player down. You know what I mean? Like, let's just bring out some like really fucking good players. Yeah. So yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, they didn't do anything wrong. They were absolutely within the parameters of the rules. They didn't do anything wrong. But I just see it like this. You know what I mean? And then I see, and then how you have a championship banner now as a warrior organization, but were you a warrior organization at the time of that game? I mean, those
not
games,
really. That's not a true warrior team.
No, I mean, and then so now let's say we go, I don't know. In my opinion, like when we played Lone Star, there was 2 warrior teams, 100% warrior teams that battled each other, and that's, you know what I mean. Warrior teams represent the warrior division in my eyes.
All those the warrior teams in the upper and lower were traditional warrior teams. You had to be 10% rated or more. Yeah, so
exactly. So I hate the whole promoting, we're a warrior team, warrior organization. Look, we won a championship in Nashville. Did you though? Did you really? I don't know. That's just bitterness, man. It's my But don't get me wrong. We lost them games ourselves. We didn't lose them games because of anything they did other than beat us. So, but yeah, it won't happen again though. I promise you that. So a display performance like that. So it's and like I said, I reached out to the entire team and I said, hey, it was probably about a 4-page email, if you will, and it was just like, hey, and putting a lot of the blame on myself too, and that's one thing I learned, like in the Army. I never drop blame on somebody else without taking my chunk of it. An email went out to the guys after Dallas too. Like it was a different kind of email. It was like, hey, how proud of them I was. How we represented our organization, our newly formed organization. We represented ourselves in a manner that everybody looked forward to dealing with us and playing us in the future, and just working with us, and that was our goal for Dallas. Honestly, the hockey, we wanted to go there and win, but our goal was to build relationships in Dallas. You know what I mean? Just kind of like what we're doing right now. So I mean, being there, if we would have went there and been a bunch of assholes, you know what I mean, you would have never been like, hey, you know what I mean? Even though you knew Phil, you probably been like, I don't want to meet them. They're a bunch of douchebags, So
yeah, no, because a lot of us Utah guys formed the opinion, and maybe we're incorrect by saying this because we didn't skate against them, but we were of the opinion that the Florida guys were fucking shitbags for because we've seen you guys play before, and we knew that you guys weren't like beyond normal competitive chippy. But I don't know. I've been to several of these tournaments all over the USA, and there's certain teams out there that we had problems with Alaska, and then they historically would go to these tournaments and purposely start fights and shit. And I don't want to dog on the teams. I won't even bring the names up because some of those teams I actually have friends on. Because like the cool thing is like off the ice, it's a lot different. But when your team habitually gets in fights and like brawls, like full on brawls, because we're hockey, And you got a bunch of disabled people. Some of them are still skilled, but you got guys who are probably on like their second or third, like pretty bad traumatic brain injury. It's I wouldn't say it's non-contact, but it's definitely not full contact. You know what I mean? Like it's not like we're out there doing full on checks, and fighting is not allowed. So the teams that go out there and actually try to just fight and shit, which there are a couple that do that tournament to tournament. Those, I don't know, like I just like, dude, you're missing the fucking point. Like, yeah, compete.
Yeah.
But compete on the scoreboard, not in the fucking
exactly.
box.
And that was part of like I think anybody that saw us in Dallas, I think we took maybe a total of 4 penalties the entire tournament in Dallas. 2 of them were mine.
But, 2 of them were yours. Half of them were yours, dude.
Right. Yeah. So we're just not that team. That's not who we are. We're not out there trying to fight. We're not out there trying to. And I think that game, like we tolerated it and tolerated it and tolerated it, and finally we were up and down the bench. It was just I knew it was changing. Like you could literally feel the energy changing to where it went from wanting to win that game to full on aggression to just, you know what I mean, shut them up basically. So I mean, if their plan was to, if they knew anything about how our game went with Dallas or with Lone Star, they got in our heads if that's what they were trying to do, and they succeeded. So you got to give them that, at least if that was their goal. So
what's your guys' next tournament? I think you said it earlier.
So we play. So this week, myself and Kyle, we're going up. We got invited to a charity. We're playing with the local Colorado Springs Police Department in a thin blue line charity tournament. And there's police departments from all over. I think Vegas is coming out. There's tons of them. But we're playing in that one. It's just us two, and the goal was they could invite 2 people that were not first responders, and they invited us. So I guess I'm kind of going back and saying what, you know what I mean, we did with the Warrior thing. But it's
not a Warriors tournament. So like,
yeah. So all the proceeds go to a local family of an officer that was killed awesome. a little while back, and all the proceeds go to that. So we're pretty excited to go do that. But Colorado Warriors next tournament is in 2 weeks. We're playing in a charity tournament in Denver. That's it's not a Warrior tournament. It's we're going in there as a full Warrior team. And that's one thing that we decided on, man, no matter what kind of tournament we're facing, we're going as a Warrior team. We're trying to keep the integrity of that. The first time we bring somebody that's not Warrior eligible to come in and play, we kind of lose the integrity of that as an organization, as we feel, you know what I mean? And we want to make sure we maintain that. So, but that's in 2 weeks. So we're pretty excited for that one.
Okay. Yeah. I'm doing a charity event this weekend down in Utah. I'm going to the tournament. It's pretty much the Utah Warrior team. But we're going as like a different name because we're not entering as a Warrior team for some reason. But the charity event is for a company that's I think they've done a little bit of sponsorship and helping with the Utah Warriors. And they recently had someone like hack their business and steal like a ton of money. So we're taking all the proceeds that after like covering the ice and putting it back into that company that's done a lot for the Salt Lake community.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's my first time in like competitive hockey since fucking May, so should be interesting. But I guess there's only one other thing we're going to cover, and then we'll get into trending topics with Austin. He'll finally come off mute.
I'm just hanging out.
I know. This is the worst one for you so far, isn't it, bud?
That's okay.
Yeah. No, it's good content. Like, honestly, low key, I kind of like this podcast the best. Like, hopefully Stephanie hasn't made it this far into this podcast because I'm supposed to say that hers was the best. You and I, obviously, Brandon, have like a deep passion for Warrior hockey. Yep. So like, I'm just glad that there's a bunch of content, and I hope that like someone out there actually gets to absorb this and gets to turn around and utilizes it towards it, because like, yeah, it's fun to talk about this stuff, but to actually do it is even 10 times better. And It's literally a suicide prevention technique. So if you're fucking depressed, if you're fucking sad, if you're like struggling and you're looking for that thing that you're missing from the military, warrior hockey, 100%, like 110%. Even if you don't fucking skate and know how to play, like warrior hockey is where it's at. Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask you, what's your thoughts on Mr. Phil Rubacki?
Oh, I'll tell you what. So Phil, Phil's a character, to say the least. I mean, Phil, I ended up driving with Phil the whole way to Nashville from Colorado Springs, and that was an adventure in itself.
He drove. So,
somehow I had flights already booked, and then one of the other guys was like, "Hey, I'm not able to buy flights. You know what I mean? I can't afford it, so I'm just gonna drive." I'm like, "All right, cool, man. I'll drive with you. You know what I mean? I'll ride with you. It is what it is. I don't want you driving by yourself. 16 hours." Well, that guy ends up not going. So now I'm like, well, shit, I already switched my tickets for future. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm trying to get tickets back now. Well, now tickets went from $130 to $600 to fly out of Colorado Springs. So Phil was like, well, I'll drive with you. I'm like, all right, cool, let's go. And so myself, Phil, and two other guys drove it, and we left at like, I don't even know, like 9:30 at night out of Colorado Springs. And we were about an hour into the road going through Kansas. It's pitch black. He still goes, "Hey, I just want to let you guys know." He goes, "I tend to fall asleep while I'm driving." I'm like, "What the fuck, bro?" I'm like, dude. And then one of the other guys on the team, Josh Clutter, he's sitting in the passenger seat. He goes, "Phil, you're fucking with me, right? Like, you're not even playing around." He's like, "No, man, I'm serious." He's like, "I have like this vehicular narcolepsy thing." I'm like, "You got me fucking kidding me, Phil, man." So I'm like, dude, so much for Candy Crush for the next freaking 12 hours, man. I'm like watching Phil to make sure. I'm like, we'll just let one of us drive. He's like, no, I'm good.
He doesn't like people driving his fucking.
No, but we caught him falling asleep a couple times. But Josh in the front seat the whole time, man, he was like this, just stared at Phil the whole time. He's like, I do not want to die in this car. But no, Phil is a great dude. He takes a little bit of once he warms up to you, then you start to learn the real Phil. But no, Phil is an awesome dude. And, you know, going back to what we were talking about earlier, we didn't know Phil. I had no idea who Phil was. And he came to tryouts, and we didn't know who he was. And he was selected as one of the guys. And, you know, he was one of those guys that had the same rating from the coach, to where it was, you know, the active roster to the alternate. And simply it came down to us not really knowing Phil at all, and just seeing him in the two. So we decided to put him on the alternate roster. And like I said before, the alternates did not have to commit to anything. Now all the other guys, they had to commit to like the community service, volunteering. They had to commit to, they got to come to the practices. You got to commit to X amount of tournaments throughout the year that we go to. And Phil has been there since day one. He's never missed a practice. He's never missed an event. He's always been, you know what I mean? He's always been there and showed his commitment and dedication to the team. And, you know, what we ended up doing with Phil was we had one or two other guys that weren't necessarily, you know, maybe they had some things going on in life, and we get it, but they didn't have that full commitment base that Phil was showing. So what we did is we moved Phil up to a full-time roster spot. And we're like, dude, I mean, you're going to every tournament anyway, and you show you're definitely committed. You're doing everything you can do for it. You know, he coordinated some events for us, the local community. So Phil's an awesome dude, man. Now, when you get to going downtown Nashville, hanging out with Phil, but let me tell you, we're coming back. One of the other guys was down there with his wife, and they had a minivan. So there was about, I don't know, probably 10 of us that piled in this minivan in Nashville on a Saturday night. And Phil was, to say he was hammered was the least, right?
Yeah.
So there was a full Gatorade water bottle there, and Phil was sitting in the middle between the two jump seats, if you will. And he's sitting there, and Phil's a big dude, and he's sitting there.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there, and he's leaning back, and and he just like starts, just saying random shit. So I started squirting him with a Gatorade bottle, just like squirting him. And I wasted the entire Gatorade bottle just squirting Phil. When we got back to the hotel, he was soaking wet. And he looked at me, he's like, "Why'd you squirt me?" I'm like, "I don't really know." but yeah, it was Phil's an awesome dude, man. I really do like Phil, and I think Phil's hiding from me right now because he found out I heard a rumor that he's trying to move back to Alaska. So
I was wondering if you knew. Never mind. Actually, I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. So well, he did tell me. Yeah, he did tell me that when we were on the way to Nashville, he's like, "Hey, just want to let you guys know that I filled out some applications to go back to Alaska." And I'm like, "Shut your fucking mouth, Phil. I don't want to hear that bullshit." You know what I mean?
Fucking stay here.
Yeah, right. And then one of the other guys, they were like, "You know, Phil's about to go back to Alaska." I'm like, "I haven't heard anything other than what Phil told me going to Nashville, and that was a month ago. So I don't know." I said, "Well, we'll wait and see."
That was months ago at this point.
Yeah, I know. So
May.
yeah, that's what I say. I think Phil's hiding from me right now, though. So, but I'm gonna wait till like 2 a.m. and text him. Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll get a screen record of some of the stuff that we're talking about, mainly like the shit talking, and we'll send him that way it'll entice him to listen to the episode. Because I've known Phil for like 4 or 5 years now. Because him and I skated together on Alaska. We skated in a beer league team together. We went to the very first tournament the Alaska Warriors went to, and then we both left Alaska at the same time. I left like a month or two before him. Went to Wyoming. He went to Colorado, and I don't like saying whatever. Fuck it. He's a bigger dude. That motherfucker hustles. Like
he does.
Hustles at a level that's incomprehensive, just because you look at him and you would say, okay, like me being like a pretty thin, semi-muscular guy, like I used to think that I'd be able to outskate Phil any day, but Phil can catch me. Like he is so fucking fast at his back checking. And I think he started as a center for you guys, and then did he get moved back to defense?
Or he started a wing. He started as wing, and then when we were going to Nashville, we moved him back to D. Because he told us, he said, "Hey man, I feel more comfortable playing D." So we're like, "Well shit, if you feel more comfortable," then he's like, "Hey, in Alaska I was playing D." So
yeah,
we decided we put him back there at D, and he definitely performed back there at D. That's for sure. He's probably one of our better D man in Nashville, no doubt.
Yeah, no, he's really good at defense. In our beer league too, like I play center, and he's one of the few people that knew where to find me if I was breaking across the ice or whatever, and like could get something up a board to me or right down the center of the ice, and just I don't know. Phil's a fucking really good hockey player. You're a really good hockey player too. Your entire team is really fucking good, actually. Dude, who's the guy with the red gloves?
Well, we all have matching gloves now, but that was Chris Primo. Yeah, he's a stud.
Primo is insane, dude. That motherfucker good. Is so good. Yeah. Oh my god.
He's got Eddie. He's so casual about how he does it too. And it's just we sit on the bench and some of the things he does, we're just like, how the fuck did he do that?
How did he just stick handle that? Like he just comes in and does some of the nastiest fucking stick handle. Like just his dangles are so fucking dirty. Like it's insane.
Yeah, but probably the best part of his game is his poke check though. It's absolutely nasty. It's like he has a 20-foot stick out there. He can poke anything. It's ridiculous. So, but yeah, he's filthy.
Well, I feel like we beat the shit out of hockey and a little bit of military stuff for almost 2 hours. Austin, kick us into trending news, man.
Oh, am I supposed to be awake over here?
Dude, a couple times, whoever's listening to this on audio, go watch it on YouTube. I swear to God, there was a couple times Austin's like doing this, and I couldn't tell if he was reading something or if he was like falling asleep.
Yeah,
I'm just falling asleep over here. I was like, "Fuck, this is boring." No,
what? Fuck you! All right, what do you got? What do you got for trending news, dude?
It's not that hockey's boring, Rob. It's just you. I'm so used to hearing your voice that I'm just like, fuck. He's still talking?
Dude, he was wide awake during the naked cribbage, though.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
I mean, I already heard that story once, though. I heard that story, earlier today.
He heard the unedited version, right. Actually.
I know the whole story behind that. Anyways.
Okay.
So on to trending news. So I put something on here that relates to Rob. And it was that Pepsi is teaming up with Boston Beer and creating an alcoholic Mountain Dew drink.
As I drink beer.
So, and the flavors will include original, black cherry, and watermelon. And they will be 5% ABV and will hit shelves early 2022. And they're making this to compete with the Topo Chico hard seltzer that is made by Coca-Cola. So I mean, I think it'll do well just because it's Mountain Dew, and there's so many people that still drink Mountain Dew.
For sure.
So I think it'll do good. And then it's the other just thing is NFL is kicking off right now. The week 1 of the NFL just ended, so we'll have a lot of news coming up on that. And then the other thing I want to add before we get back to Mr. Rob over there is for the 2024 Olympics in Paris, they added breakdancing for some reason.
Yeah, that's just wild.
I don't get that.
They had a lot of things, like they had like skateboarding and shit, which I think is cool.
Yeah,
in a way, but at the same time, like that's like X game shit. Like,
well, I mean, you only thought it was cool because your future ex-wife was on there.
Steph doesn't know about that chick.
Have you guys seen the videos on Facebook where it's the normal dudes Olympics type thing where the dudes are doing the high dive and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Like I'm like, man. We were talking about it in the locker room yesterday. We're like, dude, if it happens, man, we're signing up. We're doing something. You know what I mean?
Right. You have beer chugging contests.
Yeah.
Who can shotgun the most?
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip fantasy football for this week because we're already like pushing close to 2 hours.
That's fine.
We'll get into fantasy drama next week.
Yeah. So the only thing that next thing we wanted to go into is, if you have any plugs that you want to promote, Brandon, for either yourself or Colorado Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, I think just
shout out your guys' Instagram handle too for those who can't see it.
So our Instagram handle is Colorado_Warriors_hockey. We try to stay as active as we can on there. We focus more on our website right now, which is coloradowarriorshockey.org. We're really we're building the website right now. It's still, we're in the process of building. It's up and moving, but we have a guy that we're working with and he's actually donating his time and everything and he's doing it for us.
That's cool.
But yeah, so one I want to give a shout out to is our jersey guy, man. Our jersey guy, this dude is on point. I mean,
can you bring any of those jerseys close to the camera? Like,
yeah.
Those are some of the sickest fucking jerseys, especially the back.
Yeah, so
I love the fucking sleeves too.
Yeah, the sleeves all have. So and then let me see if I can get it all straightened out here. Crazy, but yeah, everything's tackle 12 stitched, and it the sleeves, everything's stitched on it. And then not that we need them unless we're going back to Nashville, but they all got fight straps in them and everything else. So they're pro jerseys, and our guy that does it is Wingman Sports Corporation, and they're out of Ontario. But he's a big supplier to a bunch of the junior leagues around the nation, around Canada and the U.S. So, and he takes care of us. I'm not even gonna. This dude, he's done everything for us. Our jerseys, our bags, our shower kits. I mean, everything but our gloves. Our gloves are from Warrior. They're custom gloves from Warrior. that we got hooked up on. We got hooked up on our Warrior helmets, but yeah, I definitely want to give him a shout at Wingman Sports because the dude, I mean, and don't get me wrong. There's when we had some growing pains with our first shipment order, there was some niches here and there, and that dude was like, hey, just keep that stuff. I got a whole new batch coming to you. You're good to go. So, I mean, if I went out to my garage right now, I got 70 probably jerseys, extra spare jerseys of all the guys in my closet. I mean, hanging in my garage right now. So he's really taking good care of us. So that dude, he's awesome. And I would really love to get him. I know he's up in Canada, and they're better than us right now, but no, he's an awesome dude, and I would love to get him wrapped up into the Warrior community because he takes care of the guys, and that's what's most important to me. So, but yeah, that's all I really got.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, that's good stuff. And your guys' jerseys are fucking sick. I don't have my Utah jersey in front of me, but we have the fight strap too at the bottom, which I've thought about cutting mine off because I feel like it's extra weight. Those jerseys are so much heavier than like the jerseys that I'm used to wearing. And then like I'm already a light guy, so I feel like it's slowing me down just like a hair or like a little bit. Yeah, they're nice though.
Oh yeah, I mean, I say, and that was one thing in Dallas, man. That was the first time anybody saw our jerseys, and it was just everybody was just like, man, can we buy them? Can we buy them? Can we buy them? And we were like, no. And then we got back and we're like, dude, we need to sell our jerseys because we could probably make a killing on selling our jerseys, So, and actually, a bunch of Minnesota guys reached out to us and they were like, hey, we want to buy some jerseys. And we all got together as a board and we decided that we'll sell our jerseys, but what we'll do is we'll never have a number 22 on our team. That's one thing we decided we'll never do because it's such a special number to us. So we'll never have a number 22 on our team. So one way that we looked at this in order to push the 22 awareness is we decided we would sell our jerseys and the only number we'd put on the back is 22.
It's fucking brilliant.
And yeah, part of that is just to promote that and the meaning of it. So, and we decided that if anybody wears one of our jerseys, other than family members, like we let guys that, mom and dad want to buy them, they buy the guy's jersey. But like the guys from Minnesota that asked if they could buy some, I told them, I said, hey, you can buy them. We won't put your name on the back, but so they say Warrior 22, the Warrior on the name tape and number 22. And that's how we're selling jerseys when we sell them. So
we might need to do that for Utah too, because we currently do sell the jerseys. Like one of our guys is actually a graphic designer and he produces a lot of jerseys. I don't know if you remember our tournament jersey. It was the Punisher one for
I do.
Yeah, that was a sick jersey, super light. Yeah. And then the Utah Warrior one's pretty fucking badass too. But the point is, like, I like that because in Alaska, we had reserve 22 as well, where no one was allowed to use it. But that's a good way to do it because like people wanted to buy the Alaska Warrior jersey, people want to buy the Utah stuff, people want to buy you know how it is. Like, I don't know. There's some jerseys out there that fucking suck dick. I'm not gonna lie, like they're pretty fucking horrid. Like I'm just like, really? And like even like knocking on my organization a little bit, like the whole Spartan thing, like don't get me wrong, like I fucking rock it like literally here. But like on the jersey for Warrior hockey, it's like so fucking redundant. Like
yeah, it is.
Just come up with something different, please. There's like 7 teams out there that have the fucking Spartan helmet. None of us were Spartans. That was years ago.
Right? Well, when we did our jerseys, I reached out to them, and what I did was I did bids for like six or 7 different companies, and some absolutely outrageous, and they all sent me like logo mock-ups. And I told our guy who we use at Wingman, Lee, I told him, I said, hey, I want the mountains, Colorado, stars, and trees like Colorado, and that's what he came up with. You know what I mean? And dude, I was blown away when he first sent it. I'm like, dude, it's dope. I love it. You know what I mean? This is awesome. He's like, you sure you don't want to look at anything else? I said, I love it. I kicked it out to a couple of the other guys, and they were like 100%. Let's do it. So yeah. So we're excited. We like our logo. we got a big surprise coming this next year though, so I don't want to spill any beans, but we got something pretty legit coming out. So we might have to
do another podcast.
We might have to, or we might have to just debut them when we get to the Lone Star tournament this year. So
oh, shit. Yeah. Cool, man. That's awesome. I guess from there, if unless you got anything else to plug, we're gonna get into some Answer the Internet. Anything else from either of you?
No, I'm good.
Okay. No, I'm good.
All right.
I'm having sleep over here, so.
Brandon's listened to our podcast before, so he knows what's up. So I think we're hitting him with these. Some of these are softball ones. Austin, you want to lead off?
Okay. So if you were taken hostage 10 years ago, what would surprise you most about the world today?
So if I was taken hostage 10 years ago and just kicked into the world today?
Yeah.
Oh man, probably the I don't know, this might be a sensitive thing, but just the how sissified a lot of us have become. It's 10 years ago, I never thought we would be in the situation we're in now with certain things.
Right.
So,
no,
yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah. I guess
We
for
got
me, OnlyFans that like people like girls.
You're
would be
just jealous
selling-
because you don't have one.
I mean, I got offered to start a couple, but I didn't. My girlfriend's been offered to start them too. Yeah, no, like the whole entire idea that like chicks can sell like pictures of their feet.
What's the difference between that and porn though?
You're paying for that shit, whereas porn's free. Like,
Yeah,
why?
I mean,
they still get paid for it though, you know.
It's just I think that's kind of mind blowing that's where we're heading. Okay, what you got, Austin?
I mean, my thought was just technology. I mean, back 10 years, you know, if 10 years ago we had the first iPhone.
Yeah, I was thinking like when did FaceTime come out? Because I mean, like there's so much interfacing, like literally what we're doing right now, where everything can be on video.
This
And
wasn't available 10 years ago.
Yeah, and this is a lot of my conversations are through video now too, which is kind of cool. Okay, cool. Next question. Let's see. Would you be able to be celibate for a year to be able to have sex with any girl you wanted after the year was up?
You're going first on this, Rob.
This is not fair. No, I've read the question.
Only because me and him are married, so you're the only one.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get stabbed. So
I'm trying to stay in a relationship. I would wait a year.
Say the truth. Say the truth, Rob.
I would wait a year.
Say the truth, Rob.
So I could have sex with Steph. I would wait a year.
Don't be lying over there.
I would wait a year for you.
You're not gonna wait a year. Fuck you.
Getting ready to move. I'm gonna have to experience a little bit of long distance. All right, what do you guys got? How do you answer that question? Do we pretend like you guys don't have wives, or like? What do you got,
I don't know,
Austin?
man. Like,
let's hear Austin's first, and then
nope.
Nope. Your wife doesn't even listen to the podcast. Don't be a pussy. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
I don't know if I can wait a year. That's a long time.
Wait. Did I not understand this question?
You have to wait a whole year
just to be able to have
celibate means you can't have celibate means you can't have sex. You can't jack off. You can't do anything for a whole year.
No, the celibate means no sex. Like that's the way I look at it because I can jerk off.
No,
I tried to do the whole 40 days, 40 nights thing. It ended terribly. Wait, so that's what we're saying, like zero sex?
Yeah.
I could do a year. Definitely. I've been deployed before. Yeah, I've been deployed before.
I mean, yeah. But that's different though. That's different though when you don't have a choice in that matter compared to like you're not tempted when you're over there because it's not like we need to go fuck a goat.
I'm sticking by my comment for the sake of my relationship. I'm waiting a year for you, Steph.
a month
All
later,
right,
when he gave me a call.
So you couldn't do it?
Fuck no.
Okay. And who are you gonna be having sex with in the meantime?
Well, I mean, I'm not waiting a year. What do you mean?
I don't know. Who are you having sex with then?
You no.
And end this podcast. All right, Brandon, how would you answer?
I'm probably not waiting a year either because I think I'm going the same route. Whether I waited a year or didn't wait a year, I'm going to the same person. So I'm pretty happy where I'm at. So
I mean, I'm not even going that route. I'm just saying in general, even if I was single, I could wait a year.
Interesting. We all have different answers. Okay, we got Austin.
Well, we know Rob's the real answer though, so it's okay. He's gonna last like a month. Would you punch your grandma in the face for 25 grand?
Is your grandma alive?
Or just an old person? I mean,
you're going first, Brandon. This is on you.
No, I don't think I could, honestly. I could punch a baby for 25 grand, but I don't think an old person.
Which one's worse, though?
The baby will forgive you because they're not going to know down the road. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. I got too much respect for elderly people.
What's wrong, bro?
I'm gonna punch
25 grand.
I mean, I was gonna go the same way, so I can't be too mad.
It's getting reinvested right back into SOS. Bah!
You're right.
Just walking down the road and just punch some random old person.
Austin, go through our old ones and find a fucking terrible one, and I'll read this last one.
Okay.
All right. If you had, here we go. If you could read, your name would be Rob. All right. If you had a baseball bat and you were being attacked by little kids, how many could you take out before getting overwhelmed? Brandon.
Say it again.
So basically, you have a baseball bat. How many kids could you beat the shit out of before too many kids rush you and you're done?
Oh man, dude, I got a pretty good swing, man. So I'm thinking like, I think I could get through at least 10 to 12 before I get overrun.
That's realistic numbers. I can see it, dude. I think he's on point with that.
That's 360 swinging.
Yeah, I was gonna go like 19 to 20.
Dude, you're crazy. You don't have the stamina for that. I'm just telling you.
I was ready to say the same thing. My shoulders would be burning. I'd be ready to sit down and take a timeout.
So. I would need something different besides, dude. Can I put nails in
the baseball bat?
I would flip the bat around because it would be less of less like counterweight at the end of the bat, and I would attack that way, I think. But I'm in the same boat as you, dude. Like, I don't know, like after 10. So like my girlfriend has 2 kids, and sometimes they like grab onto me in ways I didn't even know was possible. And all of a sudden I find myself like falling over or like being like, wait, I can't get this little thing off me. And I'm just imagining, multiplying that times 5. Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of pressure. Yeah, the baseball bat's nice, but
my 9-year-old, I pick him up from school every day, and he runs out and he like does like a jump and like body slam into me, and I'm thinking that's what I compared it to. I'm like, I could probably get rid of about 10 of them before I get overrun.
and you're going with 20, Austin?
I'm gonna go with like 19 to 20. Yep.
Okay.
Just gonna full send it. Just gonna full send it right upside the head.
Okay. Were you able to find a random one?
So I got one. Would you rather live life as is or be a billionaire, but you have to blow one dude every day?
Well, every day?
Every day. One blowjob to one guy. But you're a billionaire.
I'm happy where I'm good being a thousandaire.
Thousandaire.
Yeah.
Wait, so I have to blow dude to completion?
Well, yeah.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
But
what if like I took that $1 billion and I invested in something, And then
regardless,
what the fuck does that mean?
just hear me out. This is what I'm thinking. I blow one dude, right? You know what I mean? Like, make sure he's good looking. Make sure maybe he's infantry. Anyways, so like I'm blowing this one dude. I get that $1 million or $1 billion. I invest in Bitcoin. I stop. No, I have to start like blowing the dude the second day. But meanwhile, while I'm blowing that dude, I'm actually cashing out. And then like
you're still a billionaire though, so it doesn't matter.
No. But like, hear me out, because like I've rediversified my funds, so
it doesn't matter.
so now I'm done blowing dudes.
Nope, it doesn't work like that.
Like, but I'm crypto rich. No, actually, I leave it in Bitcoin because even though it's volatile, I'm putting like $1 billion in. I could at least get a lot of Bitcoins. I don't even know what the math is. Where's my girlfriend? She knows how to fucking count. So like I'm getting all this money for blowing this dude, and then like I'm putting it into crypto, and then I stop blowing dudes. And they're like, yo, give me that $1 billion. You're not a billionaire anymore. I'm like, bro, it's like in the fucking blockchain. You can't have it.
And then they're gonna go steal your. Then they're gonna steal your Bitcoin.
No, it's in the blockchain. They can't have it.
They're gonna steal all your Bitcoin.
No, I'm just done being like I'm gonna cash out like a couple days later.
I don't think it works like that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no way, dude.
You're like headhunters. They're gonna come for you and be like, "Where's your money,
dude? I
have you didn't blow your dude today. Where's your money?"
I have so much money now that I'm pulling some out. I'm keeping some in too. You gotta like keep a little bit in. That like I'm buying a security team. And they're protecting me.
You can buy SEAL Team 6 to protect you.
They're protecting me from penises and bullets. Because like I already sucked the dick and it was terrible for me. That's just me. Like, there's people out there that listen to this podcast that might be gay and we like them and we love them. And if they want to suck a dick, they're all good to do it. Like, be about it, man. Be about it. Like, get on that. Do your thing.
Rob, if you need tips, just reach out to Rob. He's a professional.
But that'd be a great question for Mr. Rubaki.
Oh, if he would do it,
that dude'd be a billionaire.
God damn,
I'd be a billionaire.
Dude, awesome. We gotta set this up in the future where I can actually like call someone.
Well, you have to get a real webcam.
I was thinking about just setting up the second iPhone because that'd be awesome to call someone on the spot and like ask them an ATI question.
Well, it's too late now. So
wait, no one's blowing anyone. Yeah, I'm the only one that's doing it. I'm a billionaire.
Well, I said I would 100%.
You wait, what?
I would do it
every day.
Fuck it, then I'm a billionaire. My money matters. So,
I think that's like that mortar mentality or something.
Yeah, I mean,
weird.
Nobody knows what to do with those tubes. So
I like those long tubes.
Long thick tube. 82 millimeters. Oh, 120. All right, cool. So I think we survived another one. This was
I know, I almost fell asleep.
No, dude, this is a good one. This was a good one. Yeah, so any closing thoughts before I close this out?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Brandon, thanks for coming on. Thanks for making it interesting.
Absolutely.
With that being said, for those of you who are new to the Fight Like Hell podcast, please go subscribe everywhere. We are on all audio formats, and we are on YouTube now at Fight Like Hell podcast and or Fight Like Hell podcast for all the streaming stations. You can find us on Instagram. You can find our personal pages for Save Our Six, which is my business, our Vigilant and Humble, which is Austin's business. Make sure you guys follow the Colorado Warriors hockey program. Yeah. And if you guys are interested in hockey, reach out to either myself or Brandon and we'll get you guys hooked up.
Definitely.
And with that being said, this was the Fight Like Hell podcast, episode 26. I hope you guys have a good night. Peace.
Peace.